Hey everybody, we are live. I hope you can see us. Let me just make sure that we are showing live on Facebook itself. We're using a software called Be Live. Okay, I think we're good. Let me introduce you guys. So we have Erin Rue and Leon Lean. I will let you guys introduce yourselves as to what you do at Pinterest. For anybody who hasn't met me at Mediavine, I'm Amber Bracegirdle, co-founder, one of the 4 co-founders of Mediavine. Awesome. Thanks, guys, for letting us know. So take it away, Erin.
My name is Erin Rue. I work on the content business development team, so I lead all of our content partnerships and then also support the creators team, which is a fairly newly formed team that's focused on building out tools to help content creators like yourselves find success.
Cool. My name is Leon. I'm a product lead for feeded recommendations.
Ahead of time, so we're going to work through those, and then we are going to open up the floor to questions towards the end for what may come up. So I'm going to start by reading off the questions, and you guys can answer. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right, perfect. So one of the hot button issues is how many times a day should I pin? Is there a point where it's too much? And then there's a follow-up question to that, but I will let you answer that one first.
Yeah. So I guess to start off, there's definitely no point where it's too much. Like in general, if you have a lot of content, we want all that content on Pinterest. I think the 5 pins a day thing has kind of become a meme I started to hear a lot about. The 5 pins a day thing is totally guidance, and there's nothing in our system that's strictly hey, after 5 pins, we
Right.
or anything. I think the reason why we put 5 pins out there is because people kept on asking us how much how much should I be pinning as advice, and so we just put out a concrete number. The mental model really is to just think about, okay, how would my followers respond to this content? If I have 100 pins in a given week, should I be pinning all my 100 pins at once, or should I be spreading them out throughout each day? And really, what we've seen that works best is that if you spread out your pins consistently throughout the week, rather than uploading 100 pins at once, we found that generally just works better, and your followers tend to seeing daily doses of content if you upload. And so that's why we kind of advise spread out your behavior rather than uploading every once.
Okay. All right. So along that line, the follow-up question was, what's the reason for the first 5 and how much more weight do they have? But you've basically just answered that, so that's awesome. We do have some feedback that the audio on y'all's end is not fantastic. I think it's maybe you, Leon. Do you guys want to maybe scoot together? Are you both on one laptop? Is that
yeah, we're both on one laptop right now.
Okay.
You think it would work better with 2, or
say that again, Erin?
You think it would work better with 2? Can you hear me right now, or?
I can. Yeah, you just started it. Yep. So long as you guys stay close, I think we're good.
Okay. Cool.
We'll get nice and close.
Yeah.
Yeah. They do want you to repeat that about the first 5 pins, though, because you kept fading in and out.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. I mean, I think the model just to think about is if you were a pinner and you're following 100 different creators, how would you like to see content on your following feed? And generally, we've heard from pinners that it's not a great experience to see 100 pins from a single creator all at once. So generally, the reason why I recommend pin 5 pins a day is we've seen a lot of creators who, when they have a lot of content, they'll just put it all on Pinterest at once versus spreading out that content across multiple days. And because people come back to the following tab every day, we've definitely seen that what works best is if you have a lot of content available, definitely upload all that content onto Pinterest at some point, but make sure that you give your followers a daily dose of that, like every day, because they're going to come back to the following tab and look through your content every day. So try to spread out that behavior rather than uploading all at once. But in terms of like concretely, does anything magic happen after 5? No, the 5 end of the day thing is really just a guidance. Yeah, try to, in general, like your followers group about 5 minutes a day. Yeah, try to spread out that.
Okay. All right. We got most of that. For some reason, like halfway through, it keeps garbling. Let me. Okay. Everyone's saying they can't hear. Can everybody hear Amber? Can someone let me know if they can hear me or if this is an issue with the software? Oh boy. Let's see. Okay. You guys can hear me. That's good.
Okay.
Okay.
Starting.
Yeah.
Try refreshing.
Yeah. We'll switch laptops on our end.
Okay.
And try that.
Cool.
Okay.
Everybody hang loose. We're gonna fix it. Hooray. Okay, good. Thanks everybody for the immediate feedback. That's very helpful. Who knew Pinterest would have internet trouble, right? So while we're hanging, anybody got any recipe card questions? Oh, you guys are awesome too. We love you. Maggie, the first week of June is the sort of projected date. We don't have an exact date that week yet, but the goal is the first week. Christine, yes, it is definitely still worth installing because it will mark those recipes up with schema, which can help them get surface area on Google to rank for stuff. It doesn't matter that it's only a few. You could, be the only person that has that recipe ever. And if people are searching for it, you want them to be able to find it. Anybody else? Maggie, we are not adding a jump button. It is debatable about whether it's good for user experience. Hey, guys.
Hey, cool. We're back.
Oh, you sound so much clearer.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Can anybody else let me know if they can hear Pinterest okay? I'm just answering questions about our upcoming recipe card while we waited for you guys.
Sounds great.
Courtney, yes, there will be a way to link products, and in fact, it will pull in the image into the card, and auto calculation of nutrition is coming eventually.
Yep.
Okay. Everybody says that it's loud and clear now. Hooray!
Yay!
Right.
Awesome.
Yay. Okay. Do we want to try one more time with the 5? Because I feel like that's so important. The idea of the first 5 pins and how much more weight do they have? Do they have more weight? And then we'll move on, I promise.
Yeah. So, I mean, the 5 pins is really just like, guidance for, just because a lot of people just ask us like, hey, like when I have like a lot of pins, like how should I be spacing that out? Should I be pinning that today? Should I be, putting that up all at once? And should I make sure that to like not pin anything? And the guidance that we give is that, hey, if you have a lot of content available, try to pin some of that like each day instead of pinning that all at once. And again, the mental model to be thinking about here is like, how would my followers best like to see this content? Your followers aren't going to want an experience where they're going to get like 100 different pins from you all at the same time. And that's why like on the following feed and throughout like our surfaces, we actually try to like truncate some of the, or like after you pin like a certain number of pins, we'll try to mix in other people's pins into that. Because people don't want to see like the huge feed of pins all from the same people. And so what generally works best for that kind of model then is making sure that if you have a lot of content available, you're paying some like each day rather than just all at once. But definitely be sure to like upload all of your content to Pinterest, because we want all that content to be available to show people.
Right. I mean, I think it's, one thing I've learned about bloggers, having done this for 10 years, is we like action items. So that's where that item takes hold. Awesome. Okay. So how do you get your pins to show up in the smart feed and in search?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you think about it, like what we're trying to do on Pinterest is show people show painters like highly engaged content, like show content that we think painters will take action on. And the way we know that content is engaging, like one of the best ways we know is that, hey, if this pin has historically like gotten engagement, or people have previously said this pin is like really good, then that gives a signal that this content is probably like really great. And the way we get that signal is when a pin first appears on Pinterest, we'll show that pin initially to the people who follow you, because those are like your most loyal fans. Those are the people who want to see your content first. And so generally we'll look at how does that pin do with your followers? And if a pin like does well amongst them, then we'll think about, okay, how do we get this pin to show up more prominently in other people's home feeds? How can we get this pin like better distributed in search results and things like that? So really the key here is making sure that when your pin first appears on Pinterest, that it gets engaged with your followers, and then we'll do the work of figuring out, okay, for pins that your followers really like, how can we like spread this out more? How can we show this pin to more people? So that's really kind of the basis behind that. It's just like continuing to check that your content is getting like good engagement, especially like amongst your followers.
Right. I have a follow-up question to that. Is there more weight to certain types of engagement? Like if somebody clicks but doesn't repin, is that worth less?
Yeah. I mean, so we're always like constantly evolving, like how much, what actions we consider, how much weight we put on that. But in general, we take like all forms of like engagement to be pretty positive. Like for us, clicking through and repinning are both like, hey, I found this pin useful and I took action on it. So either of those actions are great to have.
Okay, awesome. Is there any, I'm just going to grab this question because I don't think it'll make sense in context later. Is there a time frame for how long you evaluate the follower response for? A few hours, a few days?
So generally, we try to get your content out to your followers immediately. Like you'll see that in the following tab, for instance, the pins are almost purely sorted like chronologically. So as soon as that pin like appears on Pinterest, it will get pushed out to your followers. So within like the first few days, where you should already be seeing engagement from your followers, and we really focus too on like trying to evaluate that content quickly within the first few days that it appears on Pinterest.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Next question. How much do followers matter?
Yeah. So I think there's like, two parts here. Like one is like, hey, how much of my like total distribution like comes from my followers? And like the first thing with that is that following is actually like still a pretty small portion of like how people discover like content throughout Pinterest. So your following audience is actually like a very small sample of like the total audience that we would be like exposing your content to on Pinterest. So from like a pure numbers perspective, your following count often represents like just a tiny fraction of like the total population of users we'll show your content to. But at the same time, your followers are also like your most loyal fans. So as a result, we pay particular attention to when you evaluate the quality of your content to look at, how do your followers actually engage your content to figure out if this is content that we should prioritize, like showing up on search and showing up on smart feed. So engagement from them is very important in helping us evaluate that content, but just keep in mind that your following number is really just a small fraction of the total number of people who you could be showing that content to.
Okay. So moving on to context and followers. How do I get more followers? Are we all going to get the follower feed?
Yes, so we're definitely planning. We're still like in the process of rolling out the following tab to everyone. So definitely look for everyone to get the following tab within the next few months. That's definitely going to happen soon. And then in terms of okay, how do I grow my followers? So I guess two pieces of advice here. First is like make sure that your audience on other platforms or your audience for your domain or blog knows how to find your Pinterest profile, knows how to follow you. Like just some suggestions here would be make sure that everyone's aware that you have a Pinterest profile, and make sure that you've used the follow widget on your blog or domain so that people can easily like find you. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that, hey, if you're doing like a good job engaging with your followers, we're incredibly incentivized to try our best to try to help you find like new followers. And so we're creating a lot of spaces in the app right now, and you'll see this in the next few months where we're starting to recommend like creators to follow and actively trying to get users to discover like new people to follow. And so as long as you're, again, continuing to follow the playbook of making sure that you're monitoring activity with your followers, making sure that your followers actually, find your content like actionable, we're going to be doing our part to make sure that you're going to get more followers and you continue to grow. Something that we're just starting off with as a baseline is we're looking at all the people who engage with your content today who aren't following you, and we're going to be recommending you as someone to follow for those people. So, just look to continue pushing out like engaging content, and we're going to be doing our part to actively be trying to grow your following base as long as you're pushing out good content.
Okay, so along those lines, again, another question that's not going to make sense contextually if we ask it later.
Yeah.
With this smart feed, does it matter if you pin in the middle of the night, or should they be paying attention to peak times when they know their audience is online? Is there any benefit at all to thinking about the time of day that the individual creator pins their stuff?
Yeah, we haven't seen time of day really affect engagement. Like for instance, if you find that you're pinning in the middle of the night, but your audience is already all asleep, well, your pins are going to get seen like first thing in the morning when you're like when your followers like wake up. And because we're such a like global service these days, you'll find that like people are like checking out their follow content at like all times of the day. So in general, we haven't seen that it's like helpful to really focus on like time of day in terms of pinning behavior.
Awesome, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's talk about that new profile. What's new and what should creators know about it, and action on that?
Yeah, we're super excited about the new profile. It's available to everyone with a business account. And I think the two big changes that we've made are, one, there's a carousel of the of pins that you can either there's a carousel of pins that you can highlight and the pins that are highlighted on your cover. And we're super excited about that. It's a way to showcase the content that's most meaningful to you. And then secondly, we've exposed a couple of new metrics. There's still the follower button. And again, to Leon's point, that's an important metric, but we're also exposing a metric called monthly views, which really captures the true reach of your content on Pinterest and the true reach that you have on Pinterest. I think one of the interesting things about Pinterest as a platform is that, you can have 100,000 followers, but that monthly reach number can be 10 million or more. And that happens if you create engaging content on platform. On Instagram and other platforms, your follower count is really a logical ceiling on who sees your content, and it's usually a small percentage of your followers that do see your content. So we wanted to expose this metric so that you, as creators, can get into your media kits, and as you're going after brands and contextualizing your reach across different platforms, I think this can be really additive, and super excited about the potential of potentially monetizing that reach on Pinterest, and that as part of branded campaigns. And we think that'll be really useful for creators. So go out, add that number in, and start pitching as you guys go talk to brands.
Right, like we were talking about this when we were out there. We were saying, adding this number to your media kit is way better than followers, because this is the stuff this is how you're actually being seen, and it's more about how the engaging content is getting shown in other places because it's engaging. It's not just your followers.
Yeah, and we hope like over time that as followers or creators are highlighted across different surfaces, that follower account will also
increase.
But we think
Right.
from it's a helpful metric to help brands understand. Just because someone has 100,000 followers on Instagram and 10,000 followers on Pinterest, like the reach is probably more on Pinterest, frankly. And so, I think that'll be a good number to put in these kits.
Right. Okay, awesome. Oop, I picked the wrong mode. Okay. All right, so let's talk about, let's get down to business. We actually had this discussion in the Facebook group the other day about effective pin images. We've seen lots of different suggestions for image sizes, even from within Pinterest. And now we're saying square or a 2:3 ratio. The question is, will pins which are, say, 600 by 1260 still show in their entirety in the feed, but not be optimized?
Yeah, so we did some work last year in terms of changing our guidance here, and we recommend a 2:3 ratio or as close as possible. So I think square pins would be okay. We would just want to make sure when pinners are scrolling through the app that their pins aren't cut off, that you're seeing the whole pin. So part of these changes is we're now going to be penalizing what I think bloggers and other content creators call giraffe pins. So those will be seen less. We'll give less distribution to those in the app. And so we'd recommend just sticking with the 2:3 ratio or as close as you can possibly get to that.
Okay, so you're saying specifically like the mobile app, right? Not necessarily the desktop version of the site, which I think
giraffe pins will still show up okay on the desktop version, but we're going to be penalizing across both.
Right, and I think that's something to really for bloggers to take in, right? Because most of us that are blogging are working on our machines. We're not looking at Pinterest via the app, so we tend to have that focal view, and really we should be paying attention to mobile, as everything is mobile these days, guys.
Yep.
All right, so what's the deal with sections? Is it a mere cosmetic thing, or are large boards with well-organized sections more likely to appear in searches / follow recommendations? Do sectionized pins benefit in any way or not?
Yeah, so we're super excited about sections. It was one of the most demanded pinner features for a very long time, and so that was really a community-driven product in the sense that we really just got too much feedback to ignore, and so we launched that. It's been really great in terms of organizing content. I personally use it a lot for boards that have broader categories like recipes, and I think the best way to think about sections is thinking about it in terms of providing additional metadata to us. So it helps us better understand the contents of what's in the board that's broadly titled, like men's fashion or recipes or style or travel. And it's just another way for us to append data that's useful for SEO purposes as folks are searching for your content. So definitely encourage folks to use it. It creates a better pinner experience or improving your boards. And I personally find it really useful for collecting ideas, and then on our end, it just provides us additional data to better understand what type of content is on your board.
Awesome. Yeah, I like it a lot as well. Okay. So the very next question is, should I pin other people's content? If so, how much and why? We love our action items, guys.
Yeah, so to Leon's point, I think the following feed, you should really think about, like, as a pinner, what would be the best experience for you going through the following feed. And I know for myself, I appreciate content from the creators I follow, but I also really value their taste as curators. And so I think a good combination of both is essential. We welcome repins. We think there's really a couple of different things that make content creators important. One is obviously the content that you're creating yourselves, but then secondly is the fact that you guys are tastemakers and that you're thought leaders in your different areas of focus. And so I think we should take advantage of both. We recommend prioritizing your fresh content from your website. And then, we understand you guys obviously don't create a new blog post every day. So you can fill in a lot of these gaps between different blog posts or different refreshes of content with repins to ensure that you're always sharing new content with your audience and keeping them engaged.
Excellent. I love the idea of, just continuing to experience Pinterest the way that you think that your readers are. Don't get in your blogger bubble, which I'm guilty of. So that's awesome. All right. What is Pinterest's vision with group boards? Repin rates dropped dramatically in the last 2 years. So should we still bother building them?
I'll be honest. I joined Pinterest probably after like the peak of the group board phenomenon. I haven't seen too many. Do you want to take this one, Leo?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, something we've seen like over time, is that people actually like content from, the people they like directly follow. And I think like sometimes when we push out like group board content onto like people's like home feeds, as a result of like, just because you're following someone that collaborates in a group board, if you see like, content from another collaborator, that oftentimes like can confuse users at times. And so over time, we've basically seen that, because people like we've seen that like people have taken advantage of the group board like distribution mechanism to try to like push their content out to like a new audience. And we've seen that generally like pinners kind of get confused to get content from like people they're like not directly following. So the way to think about group boards is, yes, continue to use them if you want to like collaborate with like a small group of people and kind of like a authentic like collaboration experience, but don't think of them as a tool really for distribution, because pinners don't think about group boards as like, oh yeah, I want to as a means of distribution. They primarily think of like group boards as a feature to like help collaborate with other people. So over time, we're going to be like trying to prioritize content from the people you like directly follow rather than pushing out like content from your collaborators as well.
I like that. I personally watched a lot of interesting things happening with group boards, so I think it's a much better idea. Okay. Let's see. Does board order matter other than the obvious fact that visitors would see the top boards first? Is there an internal ranking mechanism that favors pins in top boards, or are top boards more likely to appear in searches or follow suggestions?
Yeah, so the answer to this one's pretty explicit. No, board orders don't matter. They're not used as signal in any of our ranking algorithms, and so feel free to adjust your board order however you want.
That is a huge deal. I know there are plenty of conspiracy theorists out there that have said over the years that it matters so much, and it's just like, no. All right, awesome. Let's see, where am I in this document? I can read, guys, I promise. Okay. Is there a smart feed advantage to live pinning exclusively, or even just a couple of times a week? Does a scheduler hurt you? And I know a few people have asked this in the comments already, and I was waiting for this because I knew it was already here.
Yeah, so I think Tailwind and other schedulers are often used by creators, and it's, we see it as a way to more easily automate the process of what Leon was describing. Like, we don't want 20 pins from one blog post all coming online at once, and so we definitely see the value that schedulers play in helping decrease your workload. We don't penalize any pins that come in through third-party tools like Tailwind. Tailwind's directly plugged into our API, and they're a good friend of the company. We do recommend, and I think our general theory and framework around syndicating out analytics and third-party tools is that we always want more on Pinterest's platform so that it keeps you guys coming back and logging into Pinterest directly from time to time to see the latest and greatest features. So if you go to your Pinterest analytics, they're much more robust than what Tailwind offers, and that, you know, the data that we provide to Tailwind. And so that's our philosophy. We want you to keep coming back to Pinterest, and we'll be launching a revamped on-prem analytics experience soon, which you can only get by coming to Pinterest. And there's a variety of other reasons to keep coming back. So I would say, you know, continue to use the schedulers, but also rely heavily on the suite of analytics that Pinterest provides, and sign on at least weekly.
Right. Sheena points out that there are lots of conspiracy theories and people hawking ebooks and courses that say live pinning is superior to scheduling. So do you want to say one more time that the algorithm doesn't pay any attention to where it's coming from?
Yeah.
There you go, Sheena. Not a thing. So Andrea, same idea. Board Booster is also a scheduler. It's not getting penalized in any way. All right. This is a hot button topic that we talked about when we were out there. Many bloggers are seeing. Oh, sorry. Skipping to the next question. Many bloggers are.
You had a bit of feedback, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry. All right. So I'm moving on to the next question. Hopefully, there's no feedback now. Many bloggers are seeing a surge in traffic by turning off rich pins, but obviously rich pins are important to Pinterest. Will Pinterest be disincentivizing this practice in future? If so, how? And I can speak to this myself. We turned off rich pins for Food Fanatic and saw our traffic like triple. So have at it, guys.
Yeah, so I think our philosophy around rich pins has always been that we thought pinner first, and we wanted to provide actionable content to pinners on platform. And so we think rich pins do offer more useful information for pinners. They contain more metadata, which helps us better understand, in the context of food pins, the various ingredients that go into a specific recipe, so that, if a pinner is searching for, short rib recipe with red wine, we can better deliver results. It's impossible for us to predict in general how much traffic we'll send to your sites, but we see that creators, as a philosophy, who make their pins as actionable as possible do see stronger click-through. I understand the implications of, if there are ingredients on Pinterest platform and, a pinner sees ingredients that they don't have, they may not click through to your site and actually find the recipe and engage with the content on your site. So that may be affecting some of the click-through rates. I would say, like, rich pins in general is a evolving product, and we're moving forward. As we move forward, we'll ensure we're both thinking about the pinner, but also the content creator, more so than we have in the past. And we want to deliver value to both parties, right? We want to make sure that it works for pinners, but that it also works for content creators. And we hear concerns around rich pins. We'll be releasing other interesting new formats going forward. And I think it's top of mind for us. There's a 30-person team working on the creators issue now, and helping create a better experience for you guys. And I think as a result of having this team in place versus when rich pins launch, there's going to be much more thought put into the creator experience.
Right. I think that's awesome. I mean, something as simple as a toggle that the creator has that available to them that they, could show ingredients or not, but you still get the metadata might be, amazing. Okay. So moving on, and there are a couple of questions in the comment that sort of relate to this. So we want to talk about what is Pinterest doing about stolen pins? And in addition to that, we've got some questions in the comments about people who've had things reported for copyright infringement that it's actually their stuff, and they can't seem to get their pins reinstated, which is really disheartening, because it seems to be something that's vindictively happening when something's gone viral. So if there's a way for them to work through that with you guys, I think they would love to know, like, what their steps should be.
Yeah, so it's a topic that's top of mind for us. Amber, you've passed along a couple of just requests over the last few weeks, and I've heard from a variety of other folks about this topic, and I've chatted with the spam team. I think, like, on the topic of stolen pins, we really hear you on the pain that this causes. We're actively working on a number of techniques that'll help combat that, and we want you guys along for the ride as we're working on this. I think the first thing that we can talk about publicly, and a lot of this is pretty sensitive, so I don't want to get into specifics, but the first thing that we've been working on is aggressively investing in domain quality. And so one of the things that we're working on to improve the pinner experience is that we want to make sure the landing page content lives up to the promise of the pin. And we know one of the common strategies is just spammers stealing popular images and then linking to URLs that are irrelevant or super spammy. So we're putting a lot of investment into making sure that the landing pages load quickly, which is obviously a big thing for Mediavine, and then also have relevant content and don't contain spammy or harmful content. I think.
Do you guys hear that? Aaron said site speed's important.
I think outside of that, the best way to really deal with a lot of these copyright infringement issues is, like, first, if you do see links that are not directing to the right place, reach out directly to that copyright owner. You guys are a close-knit community of bloggers and content creators, so would definitely recommend flagging that to folks whose content is being stolen. And then if you consistently see a particular domain that's redirecting traffic illegally, like, let us know through our help channels, and that'll ensure a priority review of the domain in question. In regards to people whose content has been reported as spam vindictively, I think the best approach is still going to be working through our help channels and our partner support channels. We unfortunately just don't have the capacity to look into every specific situation ourselves.
And you do have a specific copyright help channel as well, right? Which I think some people don't realize is there. And I think it's just copyright at Pinterest.com or something like that. We'll have to double check it, but I know that I've looked at that you have an actual help page that's specific to copyright. So if you haven't seen that, bloggers, make sure that you look it out.
Yeah, and if there are issues where there's we do have a 3 strikes policy. If people are actually getting locked out of their accounts, then please do reach out to me at that point. I'll make sure you guys get unlocked, and it's happened to a couple of our media partners in the past. So,
right.
It's something we're aware of, and it's something that we're working on. I think there is a community aspect to it as well, where we need your help in policing this.
Okay. I think one of the things, just as a suggestion from the community, that they would like to see is a way to report an account that they see over and over again as being a spammer, for review of some kind.
Yeah, so if you visit a profile page, there should be a flag on that profile page that should allow you to report. It's a pretty hidden feature.
Yeah, I think most people don't think it's there anymore, because I've heard that over and over again, that they don't know where it is. So I'll confirm where that is, guys, and maybe grab a screenshot for you to add to the live after the fact.
Yeah, but just to be aware, just so you guys are aware, we are actively also investing in new features that allow more people to report issues across the site. So we're actively trying to think about, okay, how can we create new tools to allow both pinners and creators to report suspicious behavior.
Right. I mean, I think especially for creators, they have this top of mind all the time, whereas the end user doesn't always even realize that it's a stolen image. So I definitely see the value of working with the creators on this heavily. Let's move on to the next topic, and we'll circle back with this. I'll talk with Aaron and Leon offline and see what we can do to figure out some other stuff to help with the more egregious situations.
Yeah, and just to be clear, like we know that the issue of stolen pins we know is like the number one issue that
Right.
creators have with Pinterest, and we're putting a lot of effort into trying to like figure that out, but it's also like a tricky situation. So I
Right.
really ask for like patience, but know that there's a lot of thought being put into it right now.
Right. Right. You know, it's interesting. Sheena just mentioned verified accounts. I don't. I know there's some stuff coming around, something similar. I don't know if specifically Pinterest accounts will be verified, but
yeah.
Let's talk about hashtags real quick, because those just came back into being a thing. I will admit I never stopped using them because I figured they would come back. I'm a rebel that way.
That was a big call on your part.
So the question is, should we be updating our old pins to add hashtags? If so, should we just edit the pin on our main board and adjust the alt text on our blog posts, or should we create new pins from our old posts? And are hashtags useful?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say like definitely feel free to always like add hashtags on old pins if you want, but at the same time, the thing to be clear about is that the reason why we introduced like hashtag feeds to pinners is that a lot of pinners were asking, hey, how can I see like the latest and greatest about any particular topic? And so what we want to try to do with like hashtag feeds is try to keep the content in there as fresh as possible. So the pins that we do prioritize like surfacing on the top are the pins that have most recently been created. So while you're certainly free to like hashtag your older pins, you'll see that it won't increase like the distribution of like older pins, because we're trying to restrict the content that we show in hashtag feeds right now to the newest content, because that's what we know. Like that, we know that pinners go to hashtag feeds primarily to see that new content.
Okay, awesome. One thing I did want to ask about that, because as I read our document, the thing that came to mind for me is a lot of lifestyle creators do evergreen content that will become relevant again, when Christmas rolls back around or when Easter rolls around or whatever. Is that an appropriate time to go ahead and like repin something with some new hashtags that are timely?
Yeah. So in general, I would say like it's certainly like great to like revisit like a topic or like a blog post, but in general, like try to create like new pins if you want to like resurface that content, because
rather than going back and editing the old one.
Right. Because like that old content is still like available like on Pinterest, and people can like still find it. And in general, like what we prioritize is like fundamentally like new content to be like shown in feeds, especially something like hashtags, where it would be like a bad user experience if like someone saw like, hey, I saw this pin like 5 years ago, why is it like appearing on like a hashtag feed? That can be like a confusing experience to users sometimes.
Right. That makes sense. And then along this line, people are asking me, are there best practices for hashtags and keywords in pin descriptions? The concept of keyword stuffing in pins is coming up. What would you guys say to that?
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing about like keyword stuffing is that like we realize that like people will do this, and spammers like actively do this. It's explicitly like against our policies to have like keyword stuffing, and we're always trying to build like new techniques to better identify cases where people are keyword stuffing. So just know that we know that it's a bad pinner experience to see a pin that's just stuffed full of like keywords but doesn't have like a meaningful description and title. And so we're constantly like developing new technologies to identify those cases, to downrank those cases, and to make sure that keyword stuffing is not going to be a successful like technique on Pinterest. And then in terms of like best practices for using hashtags, so I would say, obviously like keep hashtags like relevant, but also make sure that they're like timely and that they're topical. One of the best ways to see like what hashtags are working is just looking at like the pins that appear at the top of your like feed and see like what hashtags like people are using right now, to see like if there are like any trending hashtags. We've also seen that generally like topical like hashtags related to like our like core verticals like food or fashion that are working on like Instagram or Twitter, for instance, like work pretty well on Pinterest as well. So just be on the lookout to see like, hey, what hashtags do you see like surfacing a lot on Pinterest, because other users are probably seeing those as well, and clicking in on them. So as you're browsing Pinterest, like look at like what's hashtags you're like most frequently commenting on.
Okay, cool. Along those lines, I know we had some questions in the comments about analytics around search and hashtags for these particular creator accounts. Like, is that going to be something they'll be able to see in analytics, is how people are finding them with these things?
In terms of like hashtag analytics, it's still like pretty early, and right now we're focused on like evolving the hashtag product for pinners. Pinners like using hashtags, so we're actively like trying to develop new features on that. And I think at some point we'll definitely consider like hashtag specific analytics for creators, but it's still too early to say like when that will be available.
Right. And so along those lines, would it be safe to say that keywords are more important than hashtags at this point?
Yeah, so search is like a much larger source of traffic than hashtags at this point. So definitely be like more conscious about your keywords as well. But at the same time, like a perfect pin is one that has like great keywords, a great description, and relevant hashtags as well. So the best case scenario is that you're paying attention to like all those things with each pin you're creating.
Okay. Around that, Lisa asked, any tips on getting to the top of results when people search? The results seem a little random sometimes.
So for hashtags or search results?
I would say search results. She's asking about search. I think she's asking about search results.
Okay. Okay, so pin search results. So advice for that is generally like, we generally like rank pins based on like how likely we think you'll engage with content, like given a particular like search. So again, I think the main thing is like, especially once we like roll out like our new on-pin analytics tool, definitely pay attention to the engagement rate of your pin. Like how much are people clicking, how much are people like repinning that content, because you'll see that you'll see that like all the top like pins results have very high rates of like engagement. So pay attention to that, and as long as you're doing like a good job there, trust that like over time it will your pins should like be ranked more highly in search.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Let's see. There's one last question here in our document, and then we can move on to Q&A from the audience. We've been collating them. Does Pinterest plan to improve hashtag search results? I've noticed that search results using hashtags are far less relevant than using regular keywords, and it makes me hesitant to bother including them since I'm not sure that anyone is actually using them to find anything useful.
Yeah, so I would say that like search results will always be like the most relevant, will always give you like the most relevant results for a particular query. Like if your like main focus is about relevance, then definitely like use search. But we find that there's a significant population of our users that also are asking, hey, where can I find like the latest like content around something? I'm really into like fall fashion, for instance. Where can I find like the latest ideas? Because I've already seen like almost all the results that Pinterest like is showing in like search results, right? I've already like spent so much time like looking at it, so I just want to see like the latest. And for those users, they rather like go to like hashtag feeds to find those results. So for people who care more about like recency, which is like a very substantial portion of our user base, a lot of them prefer to like browse like hashtags and will like be willing to sacrifice relevance for that.
Right. Almost think about it the same way that someone would think about an Instagram hashtag following, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Similar idea, right?
Yeah, like Instagram, for instance, right now, they segment their feed by like, most relevant or top like results, and also like most recent as well. And so there are like lots of users that go to most recent results, like look at content as well. Right.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So I'm going to go through as many of the questions that we collated as I can. Okay, there's some good feedback. People are loving the average monthly viewers. Are they able to see what percentage of their followers use mobile?
Yeah, right now I don't think that's like available like in analytics right now. I will just say like, you know, the vast majority of our user base is primarily mobile. And so for almost like everyone, they will see that, yeah, that should be like the case. The vast majority of users use mobile.
I mean, I would assume that it's available in your own analytics if you just look at your Pinterest referrals and break that out by traffic. Like that's going to give you the same roughly idea. Okay, next one is should they remake giraffe pins? So should they repin that stuff with a 2x3?
Yeah, in general, like moving forward, yeah, like most the content that we're going to be surfacing more frequently does like follow that 2 to 3 like aspect ratio. Like that's something that we know that like pinners most like engaging with content with that aspect ratio. So certainly I'd recommend like if that content is available, like make it in that format because you know that's what we've seen that pinners like historically like the most, and we love that content like available on Pinterest.
Right. Okay. That makes sense, especially if we're talking about evergreen content as it becomes important again. Let's see. 2 questions regarding, I guess, sort of rich pins and text and that sort of stuff. So Renee asked, does using rich pins give you an advantage in the way pins are presented in search? And then Lisa asked, does Pinterest give priority to pins with no text that are photo only? So meaning like no text on the photo itself, I guess.
Yes. So I think on the rich pins issue, we prioritize rich pins in the search, in search for very specific targeted queries. So
Okay.
if you're searching chicken, chicken dinner or like steak recipe, we'll prioritize rich pins on those surfaces. I think in home feed there isn't really any prioritization of that right now. So
Okay.
search is the one surface where there is some benefit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And to answer the question about like text overlay, like whether it's helpful to have like text on the image or not, honestly, like we don't look at that when figuring out like, okay, which pins we prioritize or not. We simply look at like, okay, which pins are like
The
most
actual engagement.
Right. So if you think that text overlay is like helpful to getting your points across and like getting users to understand what that pin is about, then certainly like use it. But we're not like looking to see if your pin has text overlay and like deciding to promote or demote it based on that.
Okay. Courtney had a question about whether or not you guys crawl their sites to see if they have more content in their posts. Like, can you tell if we're an authority on a topic or just scraping a bunch of posts and pushing it out as a sort of roundup? So like, I guess this was along the spam questions. Like when you crawl the site, is there a way for you to add context of, this person actually has meaningful content?
Yes.
Or
so
it's
yeah.
Go ahead.
So we do crawl the site of the underlying pin, primarily because we want to understand like how is this click-through experience like going to be for a user. So we'll crawl information like, okay, like what content like lives on the landing page, like does the content like flow for, or is it like an out of stock pin or things like that to try to derive signals on, hey, is this going to be like a good click-through experience? So we primarily like do that to try to understand, okay, like, is there anything suspicious about this pin? Is the link broken or anything? Try to figure out which pins we should be showing users. The other thing is that in terms of trying to understand like whether this pin is from like an authoritative source or not, that's something we're like in the early stages of developing as well, using like the information we're getting from crawling. But like we're moving forward, we're certainly going to be looking for like, is this a trustworthy domain, and making sure that we like surface only pins from like trustworthy domains.
I love that idea. A lot of people, Mediaviners, know that my background is fraud, so I geek out at that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Quick tips for running an ad and getting the best results. So I guess like a promoted pin.
Same kind of best practices that we would recommend for like organic pins. If in terms of like trying to like figure out how do you create like an engaging promoted pin, it's the exact same like guidelines as we'd recommend for like our organic content as well. And I think the wonderful thing about Pinterest is that like promoted pins, they're displayed and users like treat them very much the same as like organic content as well. And the promoted content that we decide to like prioritize showing users is promoted content we've seen has been like historically engaging as well. So really like best practices to organic pins should map the same to as best practices to promoted content as well.
Awesome. We have 2 minutes left. So someone asked a question earlier that I think is perfect for ending our first Facebook Live together with.
Okay,
Let me find it really quickly. It was Heather Smith. If you could give one tip to content creators using Pinterest, what would it be?
Try to understand like what content your followers most like, and that's resonating with your followers. And I would say in general, like if you're pinning for yourself, try to keep that in mind. I would actually recommend that if your followers if you want to save content for yourself and your followers don't engage with that content, then try using like secret boards for that. Really lean into like what your followers are like asking for and engaging with, and over time you'll see that if you're like able to engage your followers well, we'll actively be thinking about how to grow your presence on Pinterest.
Yeah, and I would just say the other key point here that we've been told to hammer home is pin consistently. We really care about consistency, and we want you guys pinning on a daily or weekly basis. And that will help with distribution, and that will help with growing your followers. And we want you guys investing in the platform every single day. So just be consistent about it.
Oh yeah, and final 2 action items. Make sure you upgrade to the free like business accounts. Obviously, a lot of like great tooling that comes with that, and also helps us like understand. Okay, he's really invested in getting discovered on Pinterest. And second thing is make sure you verify your domain as well, so that we like know what content like belongs to you on Pinterest.
Right. Awesome. It's funny. We actually we have a podcast as well, and we talk all the time about writing for your Google audience versus your loyal audience. And I think it's a really important takeaway. Pin for your Pinterest audience, not for yourself or for what you think is your audience.
Yeah.
All right. This has been awesome. Thank you guys so much. I would ask that if you can take a few minutes just to go through the Facebook Live questions that are there. If there's any that you can answer, there are a couple where people said they couldn't hear us. If we could write out an answer, it would be amazing. Otherwise, thank you so much for taking the time, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Cool. Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, guys. Bye, everybody.